with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, before we start on some big headlines, I did receive a message from a very pretty girl, by the way, and because it could go no other way, that when we were talking yesterday with Defrat Guy about living off the grid, that hashtag van life, a super cute girl DM me to say that she was listening to the show and wanted us to know she is living the off-the-grid life. She loves it, hiking every day, going to canyons, finding artifacts, animals, having the time of her life, and like looks like someone they would cast in this role for like an HBO series. So it can be done.
Yeah, the outdoor girl you want cast is the Michelob Ultra chick who doesn't exist, you know.
Right.
She's 26. She's pumped about going mountain bike riding at 5:30 in the morning.
Sure.
And is super stoked to have her ultra low-carb beer at the end of her 40-mile ride.
It's her treat.
It's her treat. It's her cheat day.
Yeah, right.
Pedaled 40 miles up a mountain, and now I get low-carb beer. This is awesome. Yeah, those chicks.
Well, she might be fun to talk to. I don't know. She's living that van life, and she's a cutie and living her dream. So moving
I like
forward,
the van life. I embrace it. I'm never going to participate in it, but I love the way it sounds.
Yeah, me too. I support it.
I like how people with a cell phone think they're living off the grid. That's literally a grid. We can follow you anywhere.
That's right. Man,
Negative Nancy.
Yeah. You turned into Woody Harrelson's character in The Day After Tomorrow? No. Shit. What's that? John Cusack. 2012.
Disaster movies, right?
Yeah, it was one of those.
Disaster movies.
Yeah. It was like 2012 or something. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Chuck Yeager, if that name sounds familiar, he was the first pilot to break the sound barrier, and he has died 97 years old. This news was shared in a message from his wife, Victoria Scott D'Angelo, and he was portrayed in the film The Right Stuff, which is another reason that name might sound familiar, became the first pilot to break the sound barrier October 14th, 1947. There's a really cool 3-minute video, like that old archival, like something they would show before a movie, you know, like the news footage back in the olden times. And I just pulled just a few, I don't know, like 20 seconds from when he actually breaks the sound barrier.
Everything was everything was mechanical back then.
Right.
There's no computing going on.
And you were looking at a radar first.
Also, they didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly. They had no idea if he was going to vaporize anything.
Right.
Now she's approaching the barrier. The speed of sound at 35,000 feet is 660 miles per hour. The really big moment. Through the sound barrier. The first time ever in level flight. For the first time, except in dives, a man has flown an airplane faster than the speed of sound.
I think, God damn it, Gloria, Mabel, he named that thing.
Glennis.
Glennis.
Glamorous Glennis.
Glamorous, yes, damn it. I knew it was an old school name. Put his name
Mabel.
on that bad boy. And, that thing was just dropped from, not a B, maybe it was a B-51. Maybe they didn't have a B-51 back then.
I think they said it was not a military plane by any means. They called it more of a science lab in the air.
Well, they must have outfitted some Howard Hughes type,
right.
Transatlantic, propeller plane or whatever, just to carry that thing on the belly of it, and then just drop it. It didn't take off from the ground. It got dropped, and when it got dropped, they then fired the rockets on it, and it just took off and broke the sound barrier. Probably wouldn't have had enough fuel to take off, and I think it glided down.
They said they had a maximum of 2.5 minutes to do it, so they calculated it, but it was a real narrow window.
Did that thing have landing gear? Did he just drop it in a Mojave Desert or something? It was definitely a glider when he was done with the rocket fuel. But and it didn't have much wing on it. Like it seemed like a weird thing to fly. Anyway, that was pretty damn ballsy getting in that bad boy. But made it to 97.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good run.
Did all right.
All right. Well, God bless him.
We have an Employee of the Month for Goya, the Mexican food company.
That's right. The beans.
Might be a little unexpected, but ironically funny. Progressive Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was named Employee of the Month at Goya Foods after sales spiked following her calls to boycott. They said when she boycotted, our sales actually increased 1,000%. And Robert Unanu is the CEO over there. He said the New York Democrats' comments allowed the company to expand its reach to so many new people while still holding on to its base of customers. They didn't do an in-person ceremony, but they did send her a nice certificate.
Was that the boss who was like from Cuba and he was talking about escaping Cuba and coming here and how he loved this country? Was that?
Not the same guy.
Not the same guy?
That's that one who went on that long
well, there's two guys. There's two guys.
There's two guys, yeah.
But one guy, he got in trouble because he was at a sort of round table with Trump.
This guy was like in the Rose Garden or whatever and heaping tons of praise on Trump and, like a photo op and just saying how lucky we are to have him as a president. And this is who Ivanka and Donald posed with the can of beans. Oh, yeah. Well, you support the president, you got to get boycotted because that's where we're at. And your sales go up 1,000%.
Yeah, there's two guys. There's the one Cuban guy, but then there's the Goya guy. But I thought he also gave a speech at a round table or something. That was pretty impassioned. But
he did. He said the country's truly blessed to have a leader like President Trump, who's a builder. We have an incredible builder, and we pray for our leadership, our president, for our country, that we continue to prosper and grow.
But to be fair to AOC, if you're going to knock socialism, she's going to have a problem.
Yeah,
and she didn't like that shit. That's her brand. I hope she's in charge of something one day so we can all fucking... all right.
Well, we usually... Unless one
By
of
the
you
way,
are,
fuck her. Good. I'm glad she's fucking Employee of the Month, and I'm glad they went up 1,000%. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, go ahead.
Unless it's one of you people's books, we generally don't... I don't like to take excerpts from books as news because, of course, it's kind of a cheap ploy to get in the news. However, I have an exception today. In her new memoir, Happiness Becomes You, A Guide to Changing Your Life for Good, Tina Turner talks about how she has forgiven Ike Turner for the years of abuse that he put her through. This is an excerpt from the book they published in the AARP magazine. Yeah.
Ike Abeabuchi or Ike Turner?
Ike Turner.
It's a blanket apology for all likes.
Yes.
Forgiveness of all likes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read you this excerpt from her book. She says, I forgave my former husband, Ike Turner, for years of domestic violence, black eyes, busted lips, broken bones, and psychological torture. I was so despondent one time I swallowed 50 pills in a suicide attempt. But I had to make peace with my past, and forgiveness sets us free. I believe in karma, in cause and effect. So forgiving people for their wrongs they've committed is not the same as excusing their actions. Which I think is very well said.
Yeah. Ike Turner's been dead for a while, I'm guessing. I'm thinking. I don't know. This whole COVID thing's got my whole sort of celebrity death thing all screwed up.
He died in 2007.
So he'll be missed, obviously. The notion, when you hear like black eyes and broken bones, like, what are we talking about? Like broken bones? Are we talking about broken ribs? Like, do you really think we're talking about like breaking someone's bones? Like
probably a broken jaw or broken hand from some sort of trauma, but
you could have been
pushed, strike or some sort.
Yeah, you could have been pushed against down the stairs. You could have been slammed against a wall.
Hold on, what are some other modalities for breaking bones?
I just mean it doesn't have to. We've been talking about boxing for half an hour. It doesn't mean he necessarily closed-fisted her, which he may have, but it could have been other means, like pushing someone down the stairs.
I don't know. What's Sean Connery think? Yeager Bell X1 Glamorous Glennis was air launch from a B-29. Oh, there it was, a B-29, not a B-52. It did have retractable landing gear, so he was able to glide it down and land it. I think that thing is hanging in the Smithsonian.
That's right.
And if you look at it, it doesn't look like much. I mean, I got to tell you guys, during the analog era of like fighter jets and warplanes, tail draggers, P-51 Mustangs, and all these other kinds of airplanes, and this equipment, even the space capsules and stuff, like the super early generation of all these X-planes, experimental and stuff, it's exactly the same as the original Batmobile. Like when you get up on it, it's like, what? Yeah. This is it? Like it seems tinny and light and weird and dangerous, and it's like weird handles with cables on it and shit. It does not feel like a Tesla at all. Like it just feels old and mechanical and tinny and thin. And
it's amazing what they're able to accomplish with what they accomplished.
Yes, even when
talk about Batman and Robin.
Even when you get into some of those fighter jets from, Korea, Vietnam and stuff like that, when you get up and get into those cockpits, it's very crude. It's kind of mechanical. It feels very. It feels like it's not going to work. Is what I would say. What else, Gina?
Okay. So at the risk of driving you absolutely insane, we have to do this because it's too good to skip. An unidentified St. Anthony, Minnesota resident has received an anonymous letter chastising them for their Christmas light display. And Kaylin, don't put up the picture yet. So the letter shared by Crime Watch Minneapolis reads, quote, and they did post a picture of the letter. So this is an actual letter that arrived at their home. The idea of twinkling colorful lights are a reminder of division that continues to run through our society, a reminder of systemic biases against our neighbors who don't celebrate Christmas or who can't afford to put their lights up. We must do work of educating ourselves about the harmful impact on outward-facing displays like yours and the impact they can have. Now, that's insane, but I'd like you to see the picture of the house that they're commenting on.
Not much.
A very modest.
Understated.
Very
modest display indeed. It's one strand of lights over their balcony and a wreath. The letter has received pushback on social media, with former Baltimore Ravens quarterback Derek Anderson replying, "Saw this coming a long time ago. If I can't have it, nobody can. Or if they can have it, we all deserve it. That's not life."
Where did the letter come from?
St. Anthony, Minnesota.
But who authored the letter?
It unclear. It showed up on Twitter with the actual letter, but let me see if I can do a little digging and find out.
So the person printed up 10,000 versions and passed out around town?
And when did Minnesota get so progressive and so fucked up? When I was a kid, it was like Bud Grant and Carl Eller. They're from, and then Jesse the Body Ventura. Those are Minnesotans over there. Like, when did it get so progressive and so fucked up and so woke? Minnesota's a weird place to be woke, right? I mean, I don't know. I get the San Franciscos and the LAs and New Yorks, and I get that. Minnesota feels so arbitrary to me to be so woke these days. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like Midwest, hearty,
right.
Like down the middle.
Those are, hearty stock. I do have a picture of the envelope and the letter. There is no return address, and it's addressed to neighbor. So someone in the community.
Yeah. Well, as I always say, good news. We're out of problems. Because if putting up Christmas lights is some sort of racially based attack or, an attack against those who are less fortunate financially or whatever.
It highlights the divisions.
Then we're out of problems officially.
And is there no other way to look at this? Because during Halloween, I think I showed you guys, or I may have mentioned it, there was an incredible, and I think I sent it to Brian too, there's a list of these unbelievable houses that spent tens of thousands of dollars, and a lot of people that work for Disney on these twinkling shows and these monsters and these oversized, just it looks literally something out of Disneyland. And we took the kid, Friday night, put on spooky music and went from house to house, and it was fantastic. And I hope we get to do that again closer to Christmas, because it makes everyone feel better. It doesn't make us feel worse. It's free entertainment. It lifts everyone's spirit. And I can't imagine that one sad strand of lights evoked this letter.
Yeah. I was thinking about our house. We got no lights up, and it was TP'd about 2 weeks ago, and a lot of it's still remaining.
Oh, no.
So we literally have an arrangement of toilet paper versus Christmas lights. But yeah,
it's festive.
I walk around my neighborhood. I take a walk with the kids. If every, fifth or ninth house really did it up right, and it's always like, wow, look at those guys. That looks cool.
Yep.
God, that's
you
cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I totally appreciate it. Well, I guess whenever there's a problem with something, I like to reverse engineer it. Like, well, then what would the opposite of this be? Nobody has any Christmas lights up during the holiday season.
Right.
All right. Well, if we don't like that, then shut the fuck up. Hey, Minnesota mom, Gina Grad.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I'm an upset neighbor.
Understood. Everybody has a right to their opinion.
These people are garish.
Well, that's a heavy word to, we don't always say words like that in our house, but if that's acceptable in your house, then, live and let live. But, I understand that you're upset.
The optics. During the pandemic.
Well, it's the optics.
During the pandemic of all times, families are struggling. They're trying to put food on the table, not lights on the fascia.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, if we're going to spend the money, it's going to be on hot dish. It's going to be on more cereal and Karo syrup to make the bars. Yeah. And we're not going to show off in front of all of our neighbors in St. Anthony and say, look at me. We can afford the lights this year.
I wanted to talk about those bars.
Oh, yeah. Did you like the bars we had sent over?
They tasted like inequity to me.
Oh, dear.
That's
well,
right.
If it's any consolation, they were generic Cheerios.
They were maple bars, were they not?
Maple. They were the maple bars because a little birdie told me you liked them.
Have you ever seen a person of color tap a maple tree? Oh, your silence spoke 1,000 words, my dear.
Not personally, no.
Okay, so you have to understand what that would, how that would go down with my young mixed race bi-curious son who.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Well, if he's ever interested, I could take him on out with us and we could have a good old maple tap in time.
Oh, so you could sit there and smoke cigarettes while he ran tree to tree, harvesting your precious maple.
Well, I don't smoke. My husband, Hank, does, but I would make sure he didn't smoke around the young tot.
Oh, didn't I see him in that new Raptor?
Well, he did get himself an early Christmas present, guilty as charged.
Yeah. It's funny. At the beginning, it looked like there were two people in the car, but then when I looked up again, it was just Hank's head.
I don't know what you're
I don't know where the other person went.
Look, all I know is that I said if he gets that Raptor, I'll be mighty appreciative because that is quite a car.
Well, anyway, I thank you for the maple bars, but...
you're so welcome, a
little more nutmeg and a little less injustice in the mixing bowl next time, please.
I'll make a note.
And easy with those Christmas lights. Oh, well, and by the way...
Yeah.
It's not just the Christmas lights.
Oh, dear.
You know the light on your bumper that lights up your license plate?
Sure, yeah.
Now put some tape over it.
Oh, so people don't like
it's a
Tammy's hot ride.
It's a beacon of injustice. Many people can't afford that light.
Well, I got it for free when I signed up for checking at my new bank.
Right.
Should I take it back to him?
Put a little gaffer's tape over it.
Will do. Okay.
It's a beacon of injustice.
Oh, dear.
And C. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let me hit Geico. Do your own. Do you own? Do you rent? Sure, you do one of those. You got to, right? Well, you want to make it easy to bundle those policies? Go to geico.com. Makes it easy to bundle your homeowners and renters insurance along with your auto policy. Good thing. You got so much to do. Save a bunch of money. Go to geico.com. Get a quote. See just how much you could be saving. It's easy. Geico easy at geico.com. All right, let's do one more.
All right. Well, I'm glad because we have a follow-up from the owner of the Pineapple Hill Bar and Grill that we talked about yesterday. Mm-hmm. And somebody weighed in with another interesting piece of information that is worth mentioning. I'll start with that. We talked about how unfair it is that 30 feet away from her outdoor establishment that is outfitted exactly according to code, or at least, before 2 weeks ago, that there is a movie setup, for, extras, whatever, that looks exactly the same that is allowed to operate and hers isn't. Somebody tweeted me and said, now remember, the people that are sitting at that setup are probably COVID tested every day. For
Brian brought it up.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
I mentioned that having friends who are in production right now, and they got tested almost every day, if not every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay. But this woman, some good news. Her name's Angela Marsden, and she's raised over $100,000 on GoFundMe for the restaurant as of Monday morning. So it's probably a little higher now. The funds came after her eatery invested $80,000 to build that outdoor patio that we took a look at to adhere to the previous COVID-19 guidelines. Her video has been viewed over 8 million times. It was shared across social media by prominent conservatives, including former GOP House Speaker Newt Gingrich, since it was posted on Friday. And she's managed to raise over $100,000, which
wow.
I imagine will help immensely.
Her goal was 10,000. She's at 174.
That's
Holy
great.
moly.
As we speak. Yeah, don't abbreviate GoFundMe. No one wants to hear you. I'm signed up at GoFme. Want to give me a little cash?
Anybody interested?
Hey, there's rewards. I'll give you a T-shirt if you just go F me.
F me.
Mm-hmm.
My point with the testing for the people who are in production was that if this is something that can be done for that industry that is determined to be essential or important or whatever, why can't it be applied to the LA County Health Board? You know what I mean? Why can't restaurants go through the same protocol? They can stay afloat. They can stay open. If this can be done for one, why not for the other?
Because then they'll move the goalpost and say, well, what about the people? What about the customers? They're going to breathe all over the waiters and get them sick.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't have any. They don't have any proof that the customers are spreading it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been hard to find. I tried looking for that article that I quote, but they basically are saying the customer's not the issue; it's the kitchen staff. So why not just test the kitchen staff?
Right, but it was the customers, and then they changed it. So that's what I think this lawsuit is about, that Mark is involved in, that they're just making it up as they go along. They just keep moving the goalpost.
Also, we are entering this with a premise of, well, they would love to get these businesses back up and running as soon as possible. That may be a false premise. I'm not so sure that's their goal. It certainly doesn't feel like that's their goal.
But don't they like collecting taxes?
I guess there's a nefarious thought. The only you would call it a conspiracy theory, but it's a conspiracy theory that sort of has some. It makes sense on other conspiracy theories, because I was always like, what's the end game? You're losing all this tax revenue. These businesses are going under. Like, what's the deal? Well, here's the conspiracy theory I heard, and I really don't know enough about it to believe it or not, although there does seem to be some merit to it. L.A. is a shit show with these unfunded liabilities when it comes to all the unions and all the cops and all the firemen and all the pensions. We have tons and tons of debt with all the pensions that we promised everybody. We had that going into the pandemic. We were kind of fucked up financially before that, and now we have all this unfunded, all the unfunded stuff for all the workers, again, the cops, the firemen, the teachers, and all the money we promised them that we don't really have. And the thought was, if we can just kind of claim this is COVID, this is like financial COVID disaster, then we can get all the money, federal money, to come in and bail us out, which is not just going to be COVID-related stuff. It's also going to be for all these unfunded liabilities with all these unions and stuff like that. And I think they're probably arguing about it now, which is, California saying, well, we need this much money, and the folks thinking about giving them the money are going, yeah, but that money's just going to your state, which you never ran. You never ran properly before COVID, and we don't want that money going to that. So I think that's, if there was a conspiracy theory of like why we just want to burn it all down and turn it into one big shit show, it's kind of that thing of like, you had let's say your pool had a big fat crack in it and was fucked up, and then there was an earthquake. And then you're like,
time to file a claim.
Then you're like, just fucking drain the pool and throw a few pallets in there and fuck it up a little more. And then you go to FEMA and go, hey, what are you going to do about my pool? But it was like, it was fucked up before the earthquake. But if you figure FEMA would take care of it, it's kind of like that move when you have a big dent in the side of your car and then you get into an accident and you're like, oh, look what they did.
Buff that out.
Good time to fix it.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.